Hi everyone, hope everyone is doing well. So in this video I'm going to talk about my last week of training where I went to two different gyms up north where I'm originally from, near Akron, and a couple of workouts that I did down here as I had 4 workouts this week. If you count Sunday, then 5, but Sunday was just a pretty light day and it really technically I guess kind of is last week, but I didn't record it until Sunday. So on Monday I drove up to my parents' house and that took 3.5 hours, and that was whew. But something that was interesting when I was driving there and driving back was just the sheer amount of water I was drinking. So I had my gallon jug of water that was sitting in the passenger seat with me because I have no friends, and I drank probably 3/4 of that just in that 3.5 hour span. And what I've found is I perhaps needed to drink that much water, in that it wasn't me forcing it down, but perhaps I was perspiring, or I don't know what, but I'll get more into that in a second once I talk about a couple other things. So once I got home, I didn't do anything that night. I just went and hung out. It was nice to catch up with family and to just kind of relax up north. I also ate not that healthy every night. I had like 8 pieces of pizza from Papa John's, so that nullifies any healthy food that I ate while I was up there. The next day, I went to Unrivaled Fitness, which is the gym I went to last summer. If you followed my stuff for a little bit, you would have would have seen that was a gym that I was at. They moved to a different spot, really close to where they were before, but it was a larger garage area, whatever they call it. I got a good workout in. I worked up to 415 on the squat, and I didn't have issues with the squats per se, but I had issues with getting comfortable with the belt. On my whenever I did the 455 squat for a new PR, I used my Velcro belt, which doesn't pinch at all. I mean, it's just the nature of the belt. It's very flexible. It doesn't help that much, but it also doesn't get in the way. And that's what I was trying to get used to, having the belt tighter, the leather belt, while I was low barring, and I had it too tight. So at the bottom it was pinching, and not just a little bit, but too much, to the point where I felt like I couldn't get any stretch reflex out of the bottom because it was pinching so much out of there. And once I worked up to 415, I did drop sets, 3 sets of 3. I believe it was 345, where I loosened the belt 1 notch, and then it was like night and day difference because I was able to be tight in the bottom, where that's where I think the belt helps me the most to kind of pop up a little bit. And yeah, so I felt kind of dumb after doing the drop sets. I'm like, oh, I should have just done this with all my sets. But from the first set to the last set, I loosened it a notch, and definitely felt a difference between just those sets in particular with that. But other than that, I did some weightlifting stuff there, and I wish I could have done more. I also did a bit of bench because they have competition benches and all of that. I did a little bit of that. I wasn't planning on doing it that day, but I decided since I was there, I would throw in a little bit extra since I had all the facility and all the time in the world, since I didn't have anything else to do that day. One of the benefits of spring break is that. But so that all went well. And the next day I worked out with Seth, which is someone that you may have seen from some old videos. He's still living up north, and he's also a teacher. He's teaching locally and is also the head coach of the track team at the school that he is at, so I think that's very cool. So it was fun to catch up and swap stories and talk with that, and also meet with Isaac, his training person or training buddy. I don't even know what you will call it. He does a lot more conjugate type stuff that I'm doing, but he is more focused on the powerlifting stuff with that, which ironically he's the one that got me initially interested in weightlifting, and now I'm the one that's going to do it, and he does focuses on the powerlifting, which is kind of a flip-flop from when we first met, but people change and he's getting real strong, so that's exciting to see as well. So I was able to catch up with him on that day. In particular, I did some deadlifts, overhead press, some push press perhaps, some rows, pen leg rows. It was mostly focused on the deadlifts, and I just did extra stuff. I did some extra, I don't even know what they're called, but you have your chest on a pad and you're reaching and you're pulling something, so more back work, which I don't really think you can ever do too much back work, since that's a very important part of pulling and pushing and all of that fun stuff. So that all went well, and then I went up to my university on Thursday. I did not train on Thursday, but I went up to my university on Thursday to meet with two old professors of mine and to catch up with them. I was going to meet with someone else, but he had a family emergency. Very nice catching up with my professors and going around my campus a little bit. That all went well, and after I went and talked with them, I drove back home. So I got home on Friday, and I won't talk too much about Friday, but I had a full workout. I did a little vlog with it since I didn't have school, and I just had a lot of time to train. I went in the middle, or I guess really early afternoon when there wasn't very much people in, because I had the opportunity to do that. Most of the time when I lift, there's quite a few people in there since it's like that evening time where everyone lifts. So it was kind of nice to get in there with not very many people in there. But then today I worked up to a heavy deadlift. I worked to 515 pounds, and I was able to use the new piece of equipment that I got today, which was my lever belt. And essentially what I found is it essentially works the same way as my old belt that I have, but the difference with this one is that obviously it's a lever belt, so you have to unscrew it to adjust it. But it also, in between sets, it's really convenient to use because you can just unbuckle it and then it just sits there and it's not very tight, and then obviously you buckle it and it's right there, tightness. So that part of it's really nice. So as far as the feeling of it, it feels the same as my old leather belt, but as far as the convenience, it's definitely much more convenient. And it's also IPF approved, which if I were to go to nationals or something for USA powerlifting, I would be able to use that belt, as well as the singlet that I bought. I believe it was an XXL singlet, which it isn't super tight, but that's my preference, is not to have something that's super tight anyway. Plus it gives me room to grow into it, since I don't plan on getting any smaller anytime soon, and it allows it to fit my legs, which is my biggest concern. But thankfully the material, or the singlet that I got, had a stretchy quad area, since they probably figured that a lot of people had a disproportionate size quads to what their waist and chest and whatnot was. And the other thing I guess it was pretty significant for today was a squat, or a power jerk, that's what they're called. I always forget the exact name for them. I was going to do some overhead press, and I did do some after I did the power jerks, but I worked up to a PR of 235 pounds, which if you follow me on Instagram you would have already seen with that. And essentially, or I'm just going to stick with the power jerk because it's 10 pounds more than what I've done with the split jerk. That's when I did a full clean and jerk, and I'm sure I could clean and jerk about 235, but just the feeling of doing a power jerk feels much more natural and powerful for me than trying to do a split jerk. And plus I won't have to worry about any sort of imbalances when you do a split jerk. Obviously, you use one leg differently than the other, so I don't have to worry about that imbalance, even though but to wrap up this video, I'm talking about the interesting part of going home and eating all the pizza and ham and whatnot and seeing different things, and that is my weight fluctuation. Now my weight naturally pretty fluctuates from like 203 to like 207, thereabouts. And I generally weigh myself in the morning, since that's the most stable time, and that's the smart time, since that's any meat that I would ever have would be in the morning for as far as weigh-ins goes. But when I was at home, I was telling my mom, like, hey, I'm up to 205 pounds since last time I was home, I think, or visiting in South Carolina. I was in the mid 190s, and then when I left for my job in the summer, I was 185-ish, since I had just cut down. So I'd gained a pretty significant amount of weight since either that time or the time before that I'd seen them. And she's like, oh, go weigh yourself in the kitchen. And they had their scale down there for some reason, but I went and weighed myself and I was 212, and I was like, geez, I am fat. But it was in the middle of the day, so obviously you have the normal fluctuations of weight during the day. Plus I had eaten, that was post pizza, so I'm sure all the sodium from the pizza had allowed me to retain a little extra water. But I was like, that's pretty significant. So I was like, wow, I need to actually monitor this a little bit more. Then that was the day before I went to the SES gym. When I went to the SES gym, I weighed myself in the middle of my workout, and I think I was like 210 or 211. So I was like, all right, that's more reasonable, because I had all my workout stuff on and I had eaten. So I was like, all right, that's a little bit of water weight that I had on there. And then when I drove home, I came back to my scale, which is the same scale. It's like the clear bottom one that you see a lot of fitness YouTubers promote, which I just randomly got because it looks pretty neat. Not because any particular YouTuber told me to get it, but I weighed myself then and I was like 203, almost 204. And I was like, all right, I lost a lot of weight, and I was just from driving home, and I had been drinking water the whole time. And I was like, this is weird. But then I weighed myself, I think it was this morning, I was like 205 something. So I'm thinking, I thought my scale was inaccurate. I thought my mom's scale was inaccurate, but I'm like, well, between the three, I'm not far. Or I weighed myself at the gym too the other day, and I think I was 210 or 211. That was with all my clothes on in the middle of the day and shoes and all of that stuff. So I'm thinking that in the morning I'm probably close to 205, but I'm going to have to monitor it when I get close to the meet and make sure I'm not over that. But I don't think since the weigh-ins are in the morning, I don't think I'll have an issue getting to under that 205 mark with it, but it's something I kind of have to pay attention to, and I'm going to be trying not to go overboard with all the calories and just really try to maintain and do a little bit more cardio and see how that gets me, and see how it all works as far as when I get to the meet. But as far as my next week of training goes, I'll have for sure 2 sessions, perhaps another one, but I'm gonna have 2 regular sessions from my normal stuff, and then I'll have a 3 or 4 day deload where my deload is essentially me not doing anything. And that's for 2 reasons. That's one is Derek Mortensen recommended that before I do the meet prep, so that's kind of a deload before I do his preparation program thingy before I have my meet in June. And it's also to really give myself time to just really rest and get my leg as good as it can be before I start doing all the crazy preparation stuff, which isn't that crazy, but it's just more specific than it's more specific and less volume than what I've been doing, so it's more beneficial to me. So hopefully that all goes well. But other than that, that's about it that I have to talk about for this video. And if you have any thoughts or comments or anything, feel free to leave those down below. And as always, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.